Okay, hello again. It's Friday morning. I restrung this guitar a couple of hours ago and the strings are slipping slightly out of tune. It's not quite stretched in yet, but it will be soon. So, about this album, called Back in the Streets. It's a Gary Moore album. It's got the best inner sleeve photograph of all time, which is Gary with Thin Lizzy at Sydney Opera House. You know, I'm sure you've seen the concert. You know, it's Mark Nowsey on drums rather than Brian Downey, but it's the Sydney Opera concert is pretty legendary. Gary playing the Melody Maker and Gary playing the Peter Green Les Paul. There's quite a lineup of musicians on this, and it came out at the same time as that one. And there's this Black Rose. It says Gary joining Lizzy for the third and final time. Back in the Streets is a really, I can't think of any other albums, maybe Ray Gomez's Volume. They've got your rock songs, pop songs, but fusion pieces as well. So this has got like John Moe on the bass and Simon Phillips on the drums and Don Airey, for the sort of fusion stuff. It's got Cozy Powell and Brian Downey. Cozy Powell's in the live lineup. Brian Downey's on drums. Phil Lynott obviously sings Persian Walkways. Scott Gorham plays on Fanatical Fascists. So it's got a sweep of Gary's fusion musician pals and his Thin Lizzy pals. The two albums are really, really interesting. It's a really good snapshot of where Gary's style was. He was doing this very heavily diminished fusion thing, and I remember a quote at the time, where he said he wanted to play with Coliseum 2 because he wanted to play with the best musicians around. I think by that most technically accomplished, because the rock and rollers among us would definitely say, well, there's not much better than Thin Lizzy, but it's a different kind of better, and it gave everyone, and it gave him a sort of best of both worlds approach to being able to rip out something like Back on the Streets and then play it like almost a jazz ballad, Song for Donna. The fusion pieces like Hurricane couldn't really be called anything else. What would you rather be, or a wasp? And then there's a big hit, Persian Walkways. Black Rose is slightly different. I think it's Scott Gorham playing, if not at his best, very near it. It's certainly on a par with how he played on Fool's Gold and Fighting My Way Back, Downtown Sundown, all these just incredible songs. The whole band are great, and Gary is on fire, and he plays that solo in Toughest Street in Town, which is, I don't often say something's unplayable, but that one's pretty unplayable. It's just absolutely fantastic. And the whole album's great. So before I did these videos, because last night on Facebook, Bob Martin said to me, could you take a pop at Back in the Streets? I thought it might be interesting to some people if I said, well, this is what I'm using, I'm just using, it's a Samsung Galaxy phone. I'm just using the mic. I'm not micing, but I'm micing in front of the amp or anything like that. The amp is a Boss Katana Mk2, which for those of us of a certain vintage is an absolute godsend, because you can pick it up with one hand and it sounds fantastic, whether when we get back to playing live, if we ever do, whether I go back to, because I like to use two Marshall GMD ones, fantastic amp as well, and I have a Marshall DSL 40C, which again is a great amp, or whether the Katana is in the band in rehearsals at the moment. Both Alan and I have this Boss Katana amp, and it's sounding. Both our amps, I think, are sounding very, very good. So for the amp, I've got the Boss Katana Mk2. This is a Gibson Les Paul tribute. Quite a good story behind this one. My son bought it for me as a present a few years ago, one Christmas, because he'd seen me eyeing it up, as it were, on Facebook. So he bought it for me as a present. When it arrived, well, it actually said in the advert, it's not got the original pickups. It's got these. If you can see, they say Seymour Duncan on them because there's Seymour Duncan pickups. It's I think this is called Honey Burst. This finish, a lovely finish, and the back is beautiful as well. It's become one of my favourite guitars, and it's at the lower end. I mean, any Les Paul is, you know, it's a lot of beans. A Les Paul's an expensive guitar, but this is at the lower end. I can't really see, you know, why you know, and you would need to spend more. I guess due to the lockdown, everything's creeping up in price. However, it came in like a, I don't know what make it is, but it's like a Hiscox case. It's as, you know, as tough as a tank. So I've got the case as well. As I say, Les Paul tribute, 2 pickups, and the guy John Phillips is really good repairer, amp tech, guitar tech. Was asking about the pickups, and I said, well, I've no idea what Seymour Duncans are. They just say Seymour Duncan, and as you know, Seymour Duncan have JBs, Pearly Gates, you know, just lots and lots of different pickups. So I said to him, well, when you're over, why if you would restring the guitar for me, you could maybe whip out the pickups. And he said to me, well, what do you think they are? What do you think they sound like? And I said, well, they kind of sound, it's got a kind of, you know, Zeppelin, Gary Moore feel to the guitar, but that's the sort of music that I like anyway. And he said that they're actually both. It's the Seymour Duncan Whole Lotta Humbucker. You can see what that's referencing. So this is Gibson Les Paul tribute with the Seymour Duncan Whole Lotta Humbucker. 2 of them, right? Fabulous. But this is not the most interesting bit. I'd had the guitar a couple of months, and you know, if you buy a guitar second hand, sometimes in the little flat bit in the guitar case, maybe someone's left, you know, they leave all sorts of things. You know, it could be a kazoo or a set of strings or, you know, whatever. And I just looked in the flap, and there was a truss rod cover. The truss rod cover is that bit there. The bit that covers the truss rod that you, well, I believe you do, I've never done it, to straighten the neck. You know, I would ask other people to do that for me. I'm pretty handless on guitar repairs. And you'll notice that one is blank. In the case was another truss rod cover, and it said on it 70s tribute. So this is a Gibson Les Paul 70s tribute. Now the reason I was keen on these guitars is I saw the Andertons demonstration, which was Rob Anderton, who I would say is the most improved guitar player I have ever come across in my life. And sorry, Lee Anderton, there's mixing up Lee Anderton and Rob Chapman. Lee Anderton on guitar, who I would say is the most improved guitar player I've ever come across, and Rob Chapman. And they played these tributes. There was a 50s one with Cream P90s, and there was a 60s one, but I wasn't even aware there was a 70s. So this is Gibson Les Paul 70s tribute. As I say, on the videos coming up, I'm playing it through a Boss Katana 2, and because it's garage back in the streets, the other thing that I'm using is this. Which, apart from looking fantastic with the Dragon, is an amazing wah pedal made by Morley. It's the George Lynch Wah. It's got all sorts of Japanese snakes and imagery all over it. It's got a boost button there, right? But the most important thing, all my life I've played Crybabies. It's great, you know. Crybabies, you know, Jim Dunlop Crybabies is kind of industry standard for a wah. And before that, in my teens, I had a Colour Sound wah, which had a huge sweep. Again, it was orange. Orange must be the colour of choice for a wah pedal. And the Colour Sound was fantastic. If you went to see Thin Lizzy around 75, 76 and speculated that, you know, maybe Brian Robertson would be playing like the most big money wah pedal available, on the stage you would see the Colour Sound wah. It was stolen from a place called the Moon. It was the Regent Cinema in Edinburgh about 1978, and I never managed to get another one. But the George Lynch is a fantastic wah, and it's got one thing that the others don't have. On the Colour Sound and on a Crybaby, there's a little switch that actually looks like this one on the top. That it looks like that switch, right? And you'll know if you've played like pretty much any wah. You press it all the way down, and you can't hear the click. Yeah, because of the cacophony of metal mayhem that's going on all around you. But you can sometimes feel it, and that puts the wah on. So you click it on, and then you start to do the wah 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 thing, right? Now the problem is, after your, you know, legendary guitar solo, where you're, you know, wahing away like a demon, you then have to go back to playing the chords, And there's always a point, you know, speaking personally, where you're not sure if your wah is on or off. So you have to maybe stand back a bit on stage by your amp, hit a chord and go, oh, that's a bit trebly, it's on. Press it all the way down, make the switch click. It's, you know, it's a perfectly fine design. It's just maybe I've never been terribly accomplished at knowing when it's on and off and switching it on and off. But with the Lynch Morley pedal, it's on as soon as your foot touches it, and when your foot comes off it, it's off. So that to me is like, you know, just a design change of absolute genius. Now some of you might be thinking, aha, but there's something that couldn't do, and you're absolutely right, because unless you put your foot in it and kept it there, you couldn't do the half-cocked Michael Schenker sound, which you can, you know, the colour sound. It's a much narrower sweep than that. But with the colour sound, if you imagine it's like that, you know, like a crocodile, you can put it like that, do it till you get something approximating Michael's sound, and just leave it there. So, this was really just a video to say this is what I'm going to be using. Gibson Les Paul Tribute. I would never indulge in product placement, by the way, you know, I've got far more integrity than that, so I just never do that. So it's not like, you know, I'm endorsing the George Lynch Wah. I just love it, and I love the Les Paul, and I love the Boss Katana too, and I've got the Bad Bear with me. So that's the setup: Bad Bear, Boss Katana 2, George Lynch Wah, Gibson Les Paul Tribute, and let's not forget Typhoo QT, that delicious powdered tea. And if integrity is everything, an Ernie Ball mug, you know. So there you go. Integrity is not dead.